So we just got some breaking news from the UFC that Johnny Bones Jones will be taking on Stipe Miocic at UFC 295. So this fight will be taking place in November, and it was looking a little bit off and on again for quite some time. As we know, originally a couple of months ago, we did hear some news of this potential bout taking place, but some things got in the way initially. Jon Jones was saying that Stipe Miocic wasn't willing to fight him, and Stipe Miocic was coming at Jon Jones saying that, look, he's not willing to fight me. And Jon Jones did fall off the radar for quite some time after his win against Cyril Game, which was an absolutely dominant performance. Ever since that fight, we didn't really hear much from Jon Jones on social media. Dana White was coming out and saying he hasn't heard a thing from him and he doesn't know what's going on. But Jon Jones came out and he said, look, you know what? I just want to fight. I'm taking time with my family. Completely understandable, but it seemed like the silence from Jon Jones didn't deter him from willing to take on Stipe Miocic and stamp himself as the greatest of all time and one of the greatest heavyweights of all time as he's come up from light heavyweight recently. Now, if you guys do want to up your athleticism and prevent some injuries in your training, feel free to check out my free ebook, Combat Training Essentials. The link is in the description. So what we do know so far is that this fight will be taking place at Madison Square Garden. I couldn't think of a better venue, an iconic venue with some fantastic events from the UFC in the past. I was unsure for quite some time that this fight was actually going to happen. And on top of this, Jon Jones has laid some hints here and there that this could potentially be his last fight within the UFC. Now, I don't want to believe that it is going to be, but when you consider all the things that he's done within the sport and his age thus far, it's hard to imagine him envisioning achieving things that, he hasn't achieved already within the sport. The guy has absolutely done it all. So this card should sell like absolute hotcakes, considering that potentially, and unfortunately for all of us, it could be Jon Jones' last fight within the UFC. I haven't been a huge fan of Jon Jones just because of the things that he's done outside of the octagon that, objectively when I look at it, it's been quite debatable whether he's a good person. So he's definitely had his struggles throughout his career and throughout his life with substance abuse and all these sorts of things. But regardless of that fact, you can't discount Jon Jones' ability inside that octagon. It's absolutely unrivaled. There's no one that has had as much talent as him within the UFC and has grabbed the ball and absolutely run with it like him. Now, granted, his career could have been so much more spectacular than what it has been if he was able to actually compete all the time without, being suspended. But this one I'm absolutely pumped for. Stipe Miocic, we haven't actually seen compete inside the octagon for quite some time. So this is going to be a tall test for him. It's going to be an absolutely tall test to not compete in the amount of time that he has, and to be coming back and facing someone like Jon Jones is going to be a very tough fight for him. But if there's any man in the heavyweight division, if there's any man that will be able to beat Johnny Bones Jones, it is going to be Stipe Miocic, because he's the best and most well-rounded heavyweight within the UFC at this stage of his career. I give Stipe Miocic more of a chance to beat Jon Jones than what I would have given Francis Ngannou to beat him, purely because Stipe is a much more well-rounded fighter. The only advantage that Francis had was obviously that big knockout power, but I think Stipe is going to put up a much more competitive fight. Can't wait for this one. So what do you guys think of this contest, and who do you think is going to win? I mean, I'm going to bet all my money on Jon Jones because, it's Jon Jones, right? It's hard to imagine him losing a fight. But I thought I'd break this news to you guys today. And if you do like this sort of content, feel free to subscribe. Really does help out the channel. And as we know, UFC 290 is tomorrow. It's really fantastic that we have a card this stacked. I've only broken down, the main card so far, most of the fights from the main card. But even if you have a look at the preliminary card, there's still quite a bit of talent in the preliminary card. The whole thing is just main event level fights after fight after fight. I'm definitely going to be watching tomorrow for UFC 290 with a keen interest and breaking down all of those fights for you as well. But thanks very much for tuning in, everyone, and I'll catch you all later.